mbi 80 vjeç, por mbani një orar aktiv. Si arrini këtë?
Now that's terrible of you to know my age. No, I'm very proud of it. You know, it's interesting. I think you reach a point where, you know, you really don't want anyone to know your age, and then you reach a point where you're proud of it. And I think I've reached that point. And I'm just very lucky. I'm just very lucky. And I think some of it comes from an enthusiasm. I have a motto, which is attitude is altitude. Your attitude about things helps to elevate you, and I think that's what gives a lot of vitality. But I'm also lucky. Yeah. I think running, but running for office, that's what did it, not the marathon running.
Jeni ju një republikane në kuptimin e Nelson Rockefellerit. A do doni të shërbenit ende në Kongres?
I am a moderate Republican. They have moderate Democrats, they call them Blue Dog. They are working toward the center. They're working toward pulling both sides together to come out with a compromise that maybe not everybody loves, but is going to move us forward. And unfortunately, the numbers of the moderate Republicans are diminishing greatly. They're diminishing for a lot of reasons, redistricting, the money, and the primary elections where many people don't vote, and yet decisions are made about who's going to finally win in a so-called safe district. And so what I am doing now, I am president of the Association of Former Members of Congress, and we're working on trying to reduce the polarization in Congress. We are working with something called the Bipartisan Policy Center. We're working with some members of Congress, as a matter of fact, to allow them to get to know each other, to have briefings together, to do things together, because I feel that if you meet somebody, you can respect them, you can listen to them, you can learn from them, and you can lead. And I think these are elements that are important. So I see that as my function of trying to bring more civility and working together in Congress.
Më parë përmendet origjinën e familjes suaj. Jeni rritur thatë në një familje italiano-amerikane. Si arritët të inkuadrojeni në shoqërinë amerikane, por njëkohësisht duke ruajtur edhe traditat italiane?
Well, to answer your question, I let my husband do the cooking. No, actually, I grew up in a family where mother cooked, father enjoyed it, family enjoyed it, but really, my husband now does a lot of the cooking. But frankly, I think the values of Italian-American families are the same as the values of that are here, you know, the ethnic Macedonian, the ethnic Albanian values that are here. Family is important, education is important, health is important, and the basic values of respecting each other. So I feel that transcends any ethnic background of mine, but certainly it was something that was reinforced. And maybe it had something to do with the fact that when my sister died, that there was just no question in my mind that we would take her children into a family.
Jeni angazhuar në veprimtarinë tuaj që të kujdeseni edhe për shëndetin e femrave. Keni sponsorizuar ligje për më shumë hulumtime rreth AIDS-it. Si janë rezultatet në këtë drejtim?
We've made some progress. Well, first of all, one of the major issues that, as a member of the Congressional Caucus on Women's Issues in their chair, we were able to get the National Institutes of Health through a law to establish an Office of Research on Women's Health. Women were then treated just like men anatomically, and yet illnesses affect us differently, and you know, they're different parts of the body. So that has been successful and resulted in a lot of studies that have been conducted about how certain illnesses should be treated and how they differ between men and women. And with regard to HIV/AIDS, when we started this, nobody ever thought of a woman having HIV/AIDS. That was always a gay man who would have it. But so with women, it was undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, diagnosed too late, if they ever did. And so we've been working on a lot of research, not only to include them, but actually to look at what can be done to protect a woman, particularly in Sub-Saharan Africa, protect a woman from sexually transmitted diseases and HIV/AIDS. And there is something being worked on, which is called a microbicide. And I had helped get funding for that, and they thought it was going to be completed before. Now it isn't, but still it's on the go circle. If that were the case, then women in monogamous relationships whose husbands are not in monogamous relationships could protect herself from getting HIV/AIDS. So just think of what that would do to help children in a society. So I'm very proud of these accomplishments.
Ambasador, ti bëjmë një krahasim punës dhe veprimtarisë suaj. Kur për herë të parë jeni futur në garën politike kombëtare, keni qenë vetëm 25 gra në Kongres. Në vitin 2003, kur e lëshuat këtë post publik, ky numër ishte trefishuar. Si u arrit kjo?
It's good that the number has tripled. That's still not a lot. I mean, it's still like 18%. Now, you have a quota system in Macedonia. You have 30%, but you mandated that. And if you didn't mandate it, you probably would have had less than 18%. The United States doesn't seem to be looking toward any kind of a quota system, which means we have to work harder to encourage young women to run. We have to work harder to let her know that she will get the support and the confidence that she should have in running. And so that's why I think some of the movements, the NGOs and groups, Women's Lobby, not only that, men have been very instrumental in getting women to run for office. I've had a number of men who had supported me along the way. And so I think we all need to do that to get that kind of balance.
Keni shërbyer edhe si ambasadore në Organizatën për Bashkëpunim dhe Zhvillim Ekonomik prej vitit 2003 deri në vitin 2007. Cilat janë qëllimet e kësaj organizate?
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, headquartered in Paris, where I served, as you mentioned, for 4 years, works on consensus. You have to agree, 34 ambassadors from the 34 most industrialized countries, and they work on best practices. What can we share in the United States that should be adopted by the 33 other countries, and what can we adopt that is being done by one of the other member countries? It is responsible for something called the Anti-Bribery Convention, that you can't bribe a foreign government for a contract. In France, it used to be not only legal to do that, but you could get a tax deduction if you bribed, another country for it. So now that has been signed into law. The International Energy Agency came about when we had a crisis in the 70s, and that has been instrumental in looking at what's happening in the world. And so it's an opportunity for us to help to level the playing field, I always say. And if you level the playing field, then you're going to have the United States working with other countries working with each other with the same rules, by the same rules. And that has been a real impediment when you talk to chambers of commerce. It's like, well, this country has this law, it's contrary to this other law, therefore we can't transport something. I think it's a great organization for people to come together, work out solutions, and share best practices. It came about from the Marshall Plan, George Marshall, back in 1947, and then expanded from European nations to include Pacific nations and North America.
Zonja ambasador, jemi ka fundi emisionit. Gjatë hulumtimit të CV-së tuaj, ra në sy diçka mjaft emotive kur janë në pyetje shqiptarët me traditat shqiptare. Ju keni rritur 9 fëmijë, 6 janë të motrës suaj kur ajo nda nga jeta. Si arritet këtë, duke marrë parasysh angazhimet tuaja që kërkoni një përkushtim të shtuar?
Well, to give you an easy answer, it was so good to get out of the house. and into the House of Representatives. No, it was a matter of priorities, establishing priorities, what was most important and how it needed to be done. And for us, the priority was education and health and working together. We wanted to make sure they had the right values. So therefore, if the housekeeping fell apart a little bit, so what? If their grades were good, if they were helping each other. And of course, we set up with a lot of funny stories when you're raising that many. You've got to have a sense of humor as well as a sense of priorities. And so we would give the children certain projects they had to fulfill. And as I say, there are a lot of funny stories. I must say, a tribute to my husband, that it was not his sister, it was my sister. And he's a lawyer, and yet he was very open to taking these children into his family and losing some of his privacy, plus a lot of other things. So, but it worked out well. It was what needed to be done. People find they have strength they never knew they had when they need it.
Dhe krejt në fund, zënja ambasadore, cili do ishte ai mesazhi juaj për këtë popullatën në Pollok, ku jetojnë shqiptarët? Veçanërisht një mesazh për femrat shqiptare. Ato të kenë atë elanin dhe përkushtimin tuaj për të arritur deri te funksionet politike apo publike.
I think that, again, just appreciating what they have and trying to work for what they think should be. And I like to impress the idea that they need the confidence, they need to go for it. I always say, I've quoted before to some of the young women that our first American admiral was named Grace Hopper, and she said, a ship in port is safe, but that's not what ships are for, so sail on. So I would say to the women, sail on. Your family and your society will grow because of that.
Yes. Zënja ambasadore, ishte një nder, një kënaqësi e veçantë, sidomos për televizionin tonë, që t'ju kemi mysafir juve, duke ju dëshiruar sukses në karrierën më të qeshme. Ju dëshirojmë para së gjitha shëndet dhe gjithë të mirat.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you, and I must say you researched my life quite fully, and so sail on. Thank you.
Pra të shikues të nderuar, ndoqet edhe një edicion të emisionit në Fokus, ku mysafire patëm një luftatare të denjë, të përkushtuar për të drejtat e grave në Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës, ambasadoren Constance Morella. Deri emisionin e ardhshëm, mirupafshim.